Welcome everybody. We're about to start. Thank you very much for being here. Just a few more moments. Good morning.
Tardes. Ánimo. Es que se trataron muchos temas hoy, de todo tipo. Bueno, hoy es miércoles y vamos a
So today is Wednesday and we will
de quién es
be
quién en las
going to the
mentiras
section
de la
of who
semana.
is who in the lies of the week.
Hay que
There was a lot of
reiterar
information
que
this
es
morning that reiterates that it is a
del
synthesis
resumen.
of a culmination
Sobre lo que
about
se da a conocer todo
is given to be known every day in the media
que están decididos
that are focused
a la guerra sucia,
of doing this dirty war
a estar en contra, a no ser un periodismo
to be against, not to be a professional media, objective, analytic,
crítico
critical,
con argumentos,
with good arguments,
sino
but
a calumniar, atacar, como
lie, attack, with some honorable exceptions, of course, but exceptions
excepción.
are exceptions. It's not the rule.
Y
And
también esto es parte de la democracia,
this is part of democracy.
esto es muy importante.
This is really important. It's a sign,
Siente
feasible,
de que tenemos democracia.
that we have democracy.
No sucede.
Because in dictatorial situations, this doesn't happen.
Criticar con dientes
They
apretados.
have to criticize with
Gritan.
tied up mouth, but here, they don't speak, they yell, and there's no problem. They insult us, and there's no problem.
Y no va a haber censura.
And there's not going to be any censorship.
Cero
Zero censorship.
censura. Plenas libertades.
Liberty,
Y lo que aconsejamos,
and what we advise is
todos aprendamos a
that we all
autolimitarnos.
learn to
Porque cuando alguien se
limit ourselves,
en una sociedad politizada como la nuestra,
because when you live in a society so
se le revierte, es un efecto de
politicized, it comes back. It's like a boomerang,
boomerang, y se exhibe,
and
y hace el ridículo, y
it
pierde
just
credibilidad,
loses credibility,
y pueden tener mucho dinero
and they could have a lot of
y
money
hacer medios
and do
con mucha producción,
situations with a lot of protections, but without credibility. They can do a lot of news, but no credibility. So, like I said before, we are living interesting times, and let's see what were the lies that were selected today. Welcome to everyone, as well all of them that see us in the social media. These are the lies of the week, 1st of February 2023. Let's go to the first one. There are lies, and you will sow harvest, and you will sow the lies. Today, how lies are said in the media and how they become false news, reproduced by a lot. First one was with the Twitter guy, Juan Carlos Sainz, hater, professional hater of the fourth transformation, and he wishes death to the president, and to make up that North American Airlines canceling flights to Cancun. From one account to another one, there was spreading of lies, and use Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter, and they do it, and they make it seem as it was true. But we tell everybody that are here, this is all false. In the contrary, 23rd of January, as a context, it was known that last year, hear this, 700 flights to Cancun and 30 million visitors to this destination. So that means a record never seen before. And that is not all. Tourism Secretarial Department states that they found this campaign of lies that the airline, the American Airlines, will announce that there's more flights to Cancun. But as always, this did not end here. Pablo Maluf, Nexus Newscast, that is very classist and racist, and he wrote, we are testifying the Acapulcacización of Rivera Maya, corruption, crime, and poverty and ugliness. Acapulco in the 1940s and 50s was the destined of the jet set, destination of the jet set. It was the honeymoon of the Kennedys, but now not even the devil shows up there. Classist, racist, as well as aspirationist to be a part of the conservatism. Claudia Ramirez was approved by Maluf, as well as Macario Chetino wrote, I am sorry. Aside from that, there was users that told the truth and told them how confused they were there in their bubble of privileges. As you can see in the screens, we can see that in their own posts, they've made them see how wrong he was. There's a user that says, you're wrong, Acapulco is full of people, but people that normally can't decide their own destination, tourists, better than anyone else. Ugliness only in your face. Acapulco was because delinquency was let grown, and they only said they were fighting it. Meanwhile, they were receiving bribes. It is not too difficult, only that your neurons don't give you more, and they are afraid of progress. Another user says, how you are so confused. The supposed destruction is about a train. It's not only to attract tourism, but only for ends of justice, social justice in all the area. Go to the road Libre, Playa del Carmen, and see how none of them got anything before. I think you need to go around on the weekends, and especially on vacations. For example, these vacations was full of all people of all social workers. Even people, normal people, were there as vacations. Somebody else says, you don't like anything from Mexico, You're such a hater. If you go, you can go really far. If you go to Vegas, over there you wouldn't complain about anything. And classist, racist, aspirational is this comment. Even though that classist people cover themselves, there was a person that was thinking and mentioning and was complaining on Twitter that Rivera Maya was getting ruined as Acapulco is. Supposedly that nobody goes there. Nobody from their jet set or special people, because there's more than 1 million tourists in Acapulco, are invisible. So we'll leave it there for reflections that they can tell us how many of us have gone to the beautiful port of Acapulco. The political party PAN proposes critics. A lot of lies have been redacted in the health system without interest of Mr. Manuel Lopez Obrador government looking for medical attendance or medical situations is general to all Mexicans, and that this can become true of human rights to health. And Melissa Vargas, in her Twitter account, sent a tweet, a fake tweet with ends clearly electoral. And they wrote, another reason to not vote for Morena. This is Animal Políticos, Gobierno, federal government suspends these medication processes that detect sickness in kids, which is really false. This is from 2019, and that published note from Animal Político, supposedly objective, headed by Daniel Moreno, which was charging millionary contracts, maybe because of the privilege laws. They're publishing a lot of fake notes against Mr. Lopez Obrador, Mexico's president. So it's got to be mentioned that this note was proved a lie, and it was cleared that there was only behind for renovation and to acquire the new test. We will say to all of you that this is about a campaign to cause panic, but the tests are guaranteed with the health department, especially with prenatal, are guaranteed in the medical system. Let's go to the next one. Lorenzo Córdoba and Ciro Murayama are making a mega campaign with misinformation using the Instituto Nacional Electoral Department, and are making lies, better known as Plan B, made by Lopez Obrador. Ciro Murayama and Lorenzo Córdoba gave an interview to the diary El País. Murayama declared that democracy is not on the DNA of the Mexican people, only because they're not voting as Andrés Lopez Obrador wants. But this is classes, as if Mexicans are underage and we are not capable to understand and choose our governors. This declaration, a sad declaration, was reproduced by many other media. They posted lies like of the Plan B in El Universal, El País. Personalities of the opposition like Claudio X González, Emilio Álvarez y Casa, Denis Dresser, Ángel Verdugo, and many others. There was a digital synchronization to make a resonance box of lies against the government. Here we're going to show Opposition Senator Emilio y Casa, who is lying as well. He says in Palacio Nacional and Morena is hated that our proposals in the Supreme Court make and get autonomy, intellectual autonomy. So they don't understand that the INE consejeros do not do vote unanimously, and it is autonomy. Emilio Alvarez Longoria, solo we only want to tell him, in case that he's listening, that Elena de la Cruz is agreed that she is not with that and demanded the implementation of reforms once approved. This is not unanimity. And on the other side, INE's president published his posting about the reform and declared that with Plan B is the democracy is at risk and the vote, freedom of vote, and which is really a lie, and it's an exaggeration, and it's far from the truth. He says Plan B of the electoral reform affects gravely the vote of the citizens with regularity and certainty, impacts on the recreation of our democracy, and also on that tweet, this participation lasts 8 minutes. If anybody wants to see it, it is ready to go on their social media, but this has been plagued with judgments and a lot of lies. And so, continuing with Lorenzo Córdoba, he furthermore said that Secretary Governor Adán Augusto sent INE's participants to die, which is a lie, and they supposedly say they destroy and kill our freedom. Today we know from testimony that they were there, and that was the word that they used, the leader of that institution, as he went to the Senate to vote and have them vote in favor of this proposal. This, of course, is false. Or did he not know the truth, or it's product of his imagination? This information was retaken from Reforma Milenio and others, but also Carmen Aristegui, that in her presentation of Consejeros del INE, she said, from his party, that we had to open up their guts. One of those words that finally, said or not said directly to the legislative, they show finally what is supposedly the specialists and people that directly are operating with electoral system could happen in case these reforms finally can be validated in a way, surprising way, that Supreme Court says that are there already, receiving the proper impugnation. And we are in front of this phenomena that with politics, organizations, authorities, and society, everything that involves the word democracy, we should speak about it plainly. And this book is a tool so that society can learn and defend their rights, electoral rights, historically speaking. I do say hi to Pepe, Jose Wardeman, Pepe Wunderberg, Ciro Murayama, Lorenzo Córdoba, and Joaquin Deschat. Thank you all for being here. We wanted to leave the whole video so that you guys could see who were there and what they said. So anyway, it didn't stop there. This was said by Carmen Aristegui, Reforma, and Lorenzo Córdoba, which was false, but we have the proven of a lie. The speaker of César Cabrero said that this was a lie, supposedly because of a request to destroy El INE. It's one of those lies and calumniations, and also said that Don Augusto did not use any words to solicit any backup of the reform that was sent by the federal government, and he also noticed that the INE's president should wrote a book titled The Lies of Córdoba. Today we're going to show you the 5 lies that INE counseling sends to confuse the society. This is one of the things that we appreciate from all these arguments, lies that these INE counselors are sending. Ciudad Córdoba and Murayama. Electoral Institute sent a campaign about Plan B of the electoral reform with 5 points. A. Democracy is not at risk. The counselor, INE Norma Irene Cruz Magaña, assured that democracy in Mexico is not at risk with the initiative of the electoral reform proposed by Mr. Lopez Obrador. It is not it's not held by pins, so that if you don't change any articles in that electoral law, means that it's going to fall. I think this is an exaggeration. Our democracy is not at risk. B. The electoral patron is not at risk. This proposes that we only have access to the information of the role assigned to people as integrators of local, distrital, and as well as vigilance information as they find out what they do. C. The PREP is not at risk as well. This only shows the preliminary, and it's looking for the PREP to get the election going that will start this Sunday, so that it can be with real-time transmissions. D. The National Electoral Professional Service is not at risk. It is not planning to disappear this department. All the modifications proposed have maintained the faculty of the INE so that they can guarantee the functions of this service, what allows that the electoral processes count with the members, the sufficient members and capable members to work with. E. Federal districts are not at risk. We have 300 districts, and also we need to align all this and formulate the projects for the division of the Republic in the 300 districts. Infodemia. That's all, Mr. President. Well, we were with Nancy yesterday, correct? Let's do an overall of the information. Yesterday, 31st of January, there was a 5th audience in the court of East New York. In this time, the first witness, Afiani Ibanez, intelligence agent interrogated by the state's agent. This was notified by him that there was tons of cocaine that will arrive in Manzanillo, Colima, and participate with federal district. During this, a lot of agents in the port were found 23.5 tons of cocaine that were burned by the Marines in Mexico. This cargo was the biggest one found yet this year, and Lobo Valencia has admitted about this before. In this questioning, defense lawyer asked Ibanez if he shared all the information with any other agency aside from the federal police, and if DEA had worked in this, and he only answered that he only informed this to the federal district, and this was only to share and leave Marines and AFI agents do the arrest. Aguilera's federal police member interrogated by the defense, Arellano described all the irregularities in the Mexico City's airport in the 80s and 90s. He said that once or twice a week would receive an order via radio that everybody would be in 35 or 45. That meant that they needed to be allowed to inspection the luggage that was sent. So in this was there was 20 people that was known as a special equipment or special members that were allowed to be late whenever they wanted, and they received an order and return whenever they wanted. Among them, Andres Manuel Espinosa was also there, and commanders. He testified that during lunch hours they would speak without any trouble, and they said that the cargo had passed. Many of the leaders of the airport, Toluca, Guadalajara, and Cancun, and sometimes with luggage to the office of Oscar Villatoro, with all the airports, he narrated that in one case, in Toluca, one of the luggages opened up and there was money all over the place. Mentioned that the special group commented that their bosses were happy because they received their share, referring to Palomino, Garcia Luna, and Pequeño. During this questioning, the defense, Cesar de Castro, questioned the persons, and they said that they did not feel any envy or mad for being people so young to be in these spots and not being informed since earlier, insinuating that these are the motives of Arellano to be in this trial. Now, these persons that are being interrogated, they narrated that in 2005 he was a realty officer, and another boss was Mario and Alberto Pineda, which were identified as AFI, and asserted that there was a lot of people, that there was a lot of assassinations. Meanwhile, he reunited with them. The brothers revealed to them that they were members of the cartel of Sinaloa, and they did not work to Garcia Luna, but he worked for them. He also mentioned that in this book, they were identified as Genaro Garcia Luna and Morelos security officer Luis Ángel Cabeza de Vaca. Aguila confessed and confirmed from El Grande, particularly the kidnapping of Garcia Luna orchestrated by Arturo Beltrán Leiva and orchestrated for El Grande, dressed up as federal agent. He also mentioned that the government did not want to change Zambada, and there was people that he did not want to mention to inform what was happening, and authorities that were not able to switch him. Finally, the witness that was there had been there for 15 years and is expecting to receive a pardon by witnessing this trial and be a part of it. Defense will start today, Wednesday, 1st of February. During the audience, the judge reconvened to state that they do not need to ask any more questions about fluency of drugs and traveling of the same. The person that was drawing inside the court as well was ordered to cover the face as well in the drawing. That about the airport. To everybody, so it happens that there's an international organization that works basically in the U.S. and is the one that qualifies about the quality about the airports. I think the guy that was sending all these messages in Twitter didn't get this information, but
de que cómo metían droga
So a lot of you that
por el aeropuerto.
don't know how these drugs came into the airport, there was a shooting in that airport,
Bueno, en ese tiempo,
and at that time,
el aeropuerto de la ciudad tenía categoría 1.
the safety in the international airport was at level 1. So yesterday,
Simpatizante del conservadurismo.
there was a conservative
Llevamos un año y medio
partisan, and he said we've got about a year and a half without
esta misma empresa que califica
receiving
como la OEA, como muchas
the
otras.
level 2 for security.
Dice Felipe Calderón,
He says Felipe Calderón, ex-president, resolved it in 40 days.
y todo el tiempo era categoría
And all the time, this was level 1 in security.
de calidad. Todo
Quality.
eso
So,
lo digo
all this I'm saying because
como para que no estemos
so we're not
creyendo que son
thinking
infalibles
that they're
estas
infallible.
organizaciones.
These
Me acuerdo
organizations, I
hay una
remember
organización también,
that there's
la que autoriza lo del
a
manejo
place that
del espacio
authorizes the operations of the international airspace,
aéreo, que me consta
that
que sin
in
hacer
fact,
estudios de ningún
that without
tipo,
doing any study of any type,
porque habían intereses de por medio,
because there was
resolvieron
interest, that they
que
ended up resolving
se tenían que cerrar
that they needed to close both
para
airports
construir el
to
aeropuerto.
construct the airport in Texcoco. They had to close
El
it,
aeropuerto de Santa Lucía,
Santa Lucia's airport,
por interferencia,
because of interference, air interference,
y así
supposedly. And that's how
mucha falsedad.
much
Esto pasa
false situations. This happens in financial
internacional
departments, international organisms that qualify
la economía de un
or
país
check the certain countries' economies. There's qualifiers, international qualifiers that do this.
cuando
And when
estaba la
we had the thievery,
en,
the sacking of
en
Pemex
el país,
in the country,
las calificadoras
the qualifiers,
les ponían
they set them up
3 estrellas
3 stars.
y así,
And that's how they did.
bueno, las revistas estas
These magazines, Times,
sacaban la
and
portada, ¿no?
they would pull out their heading, their titles, the President of the Year,
Financiero del año,
El Financiero,
secretario de
they're the
de
Financialist
Hacienda.
of the Year.
Entonces, ahora me
So
acordé de esto, ¿no?
I remember that I heard this. They qualify
Nivel 1, nivel 2,
level 1, level 2,
o las organizaciones supuestas
supposed
defensoras de derechos
organizations,
humanos,
defenders of the human rights,
supuestos
or the
defensores del
supposed
medio ambiente,
defenders of
que
the environments that never
protestaron
protested
cuando se iba a hacer el aeropuerto en el lago de Texcoco,
when this was going to be made, the airport in Texcoco Lake
dejar sin agua.
was going to be made, that they were going to leave the people and the birds without water,
Con una gran afectación
with a
ecológica.
great
Ni
ecological
un
affection.
solo amparo.
Not one claim,
Todo lo que hicieron en la península
or what they did in the
con
peninsula
esa empresa
with that
estadounidense,
U.S.
Calica,
company, Calica,
que en Playa del Carmen,
that in Playa del Carmen, one of the
más bellas
most beautiful locations of the Caribbean,
abrieron
they opened up
bancos de material
banks of material to take
grava, arena
sand and
a Estados
gravel
Unidos
to the U.S.
para usar esa grava
so that they can
en
use
la
that
construcción de
in
caminos, de
the
carreteras en Estados Unidos. Destruir el paraíso.
roads in the U.S. to destroy the paradise. Never
Ni ninguna organización
in peace or any other organization, environmental organization, said anything.
todo eso
Greenpeace.
es lo que,
So all this is what is being set up
esto
in
de los
evidence. So this about the airports
aeropuertos clarísimo.
is really clear.
Tenían una clave, dice,
They even had a code,
3540.
I think 3540.
3545
3545,
y el aeropuerto de la Ciudad de México
and the Mexican airport was without security
para pasar droga,
to translate the drugs and transfer the drug,
manejado por la Policía Federal,
operated
que
by
tanto
federal
defienden
police,
los conservadores.
that they're so much backing up these conservative people,
Que no apoyaron a la Guardia Nacional, que no
the
quisieron
National
que la
Guard,
Guardia Nacional
that they don't want
esté
that the National Guard,
bajo el mando de la Secretaría de la Defensa.
under the command of National Secretary of Defense.
Es interesante todo.
It's really interesting what's going on,
Independientemente de lo
independent
que
of
vaya
what
a concluirse.
is being concluded.
Eso del aeropuerto,
All this about the airport,
no hay
there is no doubt
de que lo manejaban.
that they were doing this.
Y no solo el aeropuerto,
And not only about the airport,
sino
but
los informantes
the informants
sobre todos los vuelos
about all the flights
de Marina, de Defensa,
from the Marines, the defense
para
departments,
advertir
to warn
si
if
había una movilización.
there was a mobilization of the Army, of the
Se
Marines.
filtraba de inmediato.
If that was the case, it would be known right away.
Yo recuerdo que
I remember
don Julio Scherer fue
Mr. Julio Scherbert was interviewed
al Mayo y
went to interview El Mayo, and he was really good friends.
me mandó a decir de que iba a ir a esa entrevista porque su oficio
And he sent me the message because his job as a journalist
mandaba
required him to do so.
que yo estuviese enterado
That I was informed about this
unos días antes. Ya
a
cuando
few days
regresa,
before. So when I came back,
pues hace su reportaje
he does this report
sobre la entrevista.
of the interview.
Todas las cosas que me platica, no sé si está en la entrevista.
So about this, I don't think it's on the interview,
Es
but
que estuvo como un día, 2 días.
he was there about a day or 2 days in wait
hasta que se crearon las condiciones.
up until the conditions were right. They took him.
Se dio la entrevista, que eso está.
Interview was given, so that's publicized.
Pero lo
But
que me llamó la atención
what called my attention really was, and for him too,
que tenía
it was
mucho sentido del humor.
he had a great sense of
Don
humor.
Andrés,
So he would say, Mr. Andres, what do you think? Guess what? they had me waiting, and you know what they told me?
Que no podíamos
That we couldn't go
al lugar
to that spot
porque había mucho gobierno,
because there was a lot of government people there.
pues mucho gobierno es vigilancia, ¿no?
So, meaning that there was a lot of lookouts.
Entonces es lo mismo. Los informantes,
So it's about the same thing, these informants.
por ahora no, hay mucho gobierno.
For now, there's a lot of government, so wait, they said.
Pero esto es parte de lo
So this is
que
part
sucedía.
of what was happening,
Son de las
and
lecciones
it's about
que
these
uno debe de
lessons that we need to
todos
pick up
estos
from all
procesos,
these
independientemente
processes,
del
independently of the
resultado,
results,
por la gente
and about the people, information,
colectiva,
collective
para
information for all.
porque estas cosas
Because these things
en la radio, en la televisión, no
in radio and television,
pasan así como flash.
they come and go really
No hay
quick.
análisis.
There's no analysis done to it.
Ya nadie se acuerda de lo del
Nobody remembers
aeropuerto.
about the airport situation, the shootings.
A partir de aquí deberían de
From this
saber
point on, they should say
qué pasaba
what was happening
en el aeropuerto.
in the airport.
Entonces muy interesante.
So this is really, really interesting. So let's go with Nancy. Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Nancy Rodriguez from Oro Sólido, Empuje Migrante and brother, migrant brother. Good morning to all. Mr. President, so as you know, every day it's really common that there's a lot of people coming in to look for us to denounce, solicit, just outside this building, and I really appreciate them and these people that have these the confidence to come to us, and that you will be resolving a lot of businesses and situations. So right now there's a young man outside. He's a medic, anesthesiologist, and he sends you a letter, and I will inform you about the case right away. So there's been a document presented, Jorge Zaragoza Delgado, in charge of the Innovation Department of Health Services in Quintana Roo. He says, I make it known to you that in 2023, in January, we received in this building, we received David Navarrete Beltran, which is 25 years old. He's a medical resident in first year of anesthesiology, subscribed to the General Hospital of Cancun, Jesus Comate Rodriguez. He comes from there. And he states that he manifesting that he is being abused, work abuse, violations to his work rights, physical violence, verbal violence, discrimination due to a lot of the doctors there. So he's asking for a change of medical building. But let me tell you, Mr. President, right now he's been laid off, and authorities are registering that he voluntarily gave up his work. And almost crying, he's asking that we get you this because he doesn't want to lose his month or whatever they call it. And he's just outside. And I'll leave you this document with Jesus, so hopefully that he can give you. Yes, he will be taken care of. So, and in another thing, you know, in the information, am lovers. There's a lot of people that follow you. I've been having an opportunity to speak with them, and I've been interviewing them, a few, and a lot of people that are very talented, very informed about everything, and they are asking something about medical negligence in Guanajuato. There was a death there of one of their sisters, Jesus Arroyo Martinez, and they asked me about am lovers, this media that have 30,000 members. And this has been tried to be sent to the hierarchies in Guanajuato, and asking if you would be able to come with us in this case. His sisters died, Arroyo Martinez, and died of medical negligence in Guanajuato. And there's this, I got the information of the hospital, I think it was from the Social Security, local Social Security, and I'm not really sure how you would see that. Well, if it's the Social Security, and they could see that and take care of that with Zoe Robledo. And if it's not from the IMSS or Seguro Social, it would be the Secretary of Health or National Committee of Human Rights. We would channel that with my partner here, Jesus. Thank you very much, Mr. President. And aside with other things, in social media, there's a big movement. It's the new communication system, and the last convention of American leaders, there was a conference that it was given outside in the park outside here. And a few days ago, you mentioned the question that Radio Formula made. In the chat, obviously, there was a lot of doubts about why it was she that was asking. So, a lot of the people said it was you that represented this person. Just maybe that you can inform us as the new generations, so that there's no violence against the autonomy of the new young people, very talented people in the social media, about 20 years old, that I'm surprised of this talent and this sensibility of hearing this, so that they don't feel any discrimination. Remember, when you arrived here, they were not allowed to the YouTubers. There was no entry to them. So they also asked to be giving access to these meetings, and also I was threatened to not be speaking for the YouTubers. It was something similar, if you allow me, for these new generations, so that they don't think that they're discriminated to, and they don't have any credibility now, they think. And a lot of these leaders that are in these businesses, they're really in prestige, and they're going to be coming out in Garcia Luna's trial. If you can inform us how this person was selected, and for the information about the new generations, that so that they know why. About that selection, every government of the three decided to do a question, and that people responsible of the press of every government, they were going to pick up the opinion of every journalist to see who was going to ask. So I was it was my turn to be asked by Sarah
porque pues yo creo que hicieron
because I think they made
un consenso
a
y
consensus.
y la verdad que aunque Sara trabaja en un medio
Even if Sarah works, honestly, if she works through some conventional media where there's people that don't like us,
casi todos
almost all of them,
los que trabajan en esa estación de radio,
everybody that works there are against us.
los que tienen
Those of them that
programas de noticias,
have newscasts, all of them really.
que haya uno que informe con profesionalismo y con
And I don't doubt
equilibrio,
that they're trying to inform with respect, but especially when it's about us. But
es una muy buena
Sarah
periodista.
is a very good
Esa
journalist.
es mi apreciación también.
That's what I see. That's what I
Ella
appreciate. And
informa,
she would give us the.
se dedica a informar.
That's what she does.
Los que
She
editorializan, pues, son
spreads out
sus
the information. Whichever ones that
jefes,
switch all the information are her bosses.
los de corte y confección
The ones that do the work, the hard
y
work,
los conductores.
and conductors as well,
Ya le agregan,
presenters. They would add certain things, you know,
empiezan a dar opinión,
and then they start giving their opinion.
pero mi opinión es de que
But my view is that Sarah
periodista
is
que
a
informa.
informative
Es que
journalist. I mean, with that,
Es bastante. Que no haya
that should be
tendencias,
enough. That
que
there's
no haya sesgos. O sea, que no hay información
that there's no
tendenciosa,
tendencies.
que se busque lo más apegado a la
That there's
objetividad,
no
a la
misinformation.
verdad.
That we're looking for the truest and most
Eso es
honest
lo que,
way to get to the truth.
pedimos,
That's what we ask.
que no se confunda
That they don't get
información
confused. That the information
con
does
opinión
not get
del conductor.
revolved with the opinion of who's given the
Entonces,
news.
eso es lo que yo puedo
So this is what
comentar
I can say about that,
básicamente.
basically.
Ahora con lo de los juicios de
And then about with
con el juicio de
these
García Luna,
trials of Garcia Luna, somebody was telling me that they're listening to the radio and
un enviado.
there's a special
Y dice el
correspondent,
enviado,
and then he says,
por ejemplo,
as an example,
había un operativo para
there was an
vigilancia
operation
del
to
aeropuerto
leave without safety
cuando se les
or
ordenaba
vigilance the airport whenever
para que
they were ordered
pasaran la
to,
droga.
so that they can pass with the drugs.
Y acá el conductor.
And then the driver, the conductor, the
Pero
newscast.
presentó pruebas,
But did he show any proof?
pero le consta
But is it a fact? Was there
son
proof
dichos.
about that, or are there rumors?
¿sí? Y siempre es eso,
And it's always like that.
siempre. En la radio, en la televisión,
In the radio, television,
más en la radio, fíjense.
more in radio.
La radio era la campeona
Before the radio was the champion of liberty,
y se ha echado a perder. Porque
and it's been spoiled, really.
igual que los periódicos, pero como los periódicos ya no tienen
Just as newspapers, but now
La misma
newspapers don't
cobertura.
have the same coverage
ya no
as before.
tienen sí, la misma difusión.
There's no
Lo
same
que ha quedado más es
information.
la radio.
What really isn't, we've ended up with the radio, especially in the cities and in the rural areas
Televisoras.
and the TV cast.
Pero eso fue lo
But
que
that was mainly
sucedió
what happened,
y Sara fue la que me hizo la
and Sarah was the one that
Y
made
bueno, además de
the
que
question.
ella es la decana de la
Yes, and aside from her being the receiver of all this information, one that has worked the longest in the presidential information. And let me tell you another one
es Carmen.
that is not idealist is Carmen.
Carmen Jaimes.
Carmen
Sí,
Jaimes
de Televisa.
from Televisa.
Y ella, una profesional.
She's a real
A la
professional.
que le voy a
That
dar
is really, I'm going to give her the interview
cuando lo solicite.
whenever she asks.
Nada más que tengamos el tiempo
Only that we have the
precisamente
spot,
por eso,
the time that I'm going to give her the interview, especially due to that,
por el profesionalismo,
because of her
para
professionalism,
que no
and
se piense que nosotros estamos en contra, ¿no? De los
so that they don't
periodistas.
think
No,
that we're against
no,
the journalism.
estamos en contra de
We are against
los que utilizan el
those
periodismo
who use journalism to do business,
para lucrar.
to win something. In the strict sense of the words, they're not even journalists.
Es como
It's like
los que se dicen empresarios
those that call themselves
y no son más que traficantes de
businessmen and they're only trafficking influences,
influencia. Pues en sentido estricto,
influence
no son
traffickers.
empresarios,
In
son
the
traficantes de
good sense
influencia.
of the word, they're not businessmen. They're trafficking with influence.
Por el influyentismo
Because of the
reciben contratos
influencism, they receive
para
contracts for everything,
desde
from
vender un tornillo a
selling a nail to selling a helicopter or make an airport, construct an airport, only because they have the ways, because they have influences,
se mocharon.
and because they gave something up. They paid up.
Pero qué empresarios pueden ser.
And what businessman could
El
be?
que
The businessman that is there is the one that fights
conseguir
to get,
juntar el dinero de la nómina,
to come up with the payments of his
el
workers.
que está
The one that is
para comprar insumos,
aware of purchasing at a good price for their company.
pueda producir con calidad.
One that can product or make with quality
También
a lot of things, as well.
que trata con respeto.
The one that treats with a lot of respect
De estos traficantes
their
de influencia
workers. These influencing traffickers,
son déspotas,
they're desperate and they're
prepotentes, se sienten.
strong against others. They feel superiors
Influencias. Están bien parados.
because their influences, they're really up there with that.
Entonces,
So
sí, hay periodistas y hay quienes no.
there's a lot of journalism and there's some that aren't journalists, and there's
Hay
businessmen,
políticos
good businessmen, and there's bad businessmen, and there's politicians and there's no politicians.
como el periodismo,
Politics as well
como
as
el ser empresario,
journalism and news, as well as being a businessman, requires
de un conocimiento
from a certain knowledge
y también de una ética.
and a lot of ethics.
Pero bueno, esas son otras cosas.
But
Sí,
that's another talk.
Presidente, hace unos antes de la
Mr.
pandemia,
President, before
¿recordará
the
usted que le denuncié aquí el
COVID
cártel inmobiliario
pandemic,
del
do you
Estado
remember
de
I
México, donde
mentioned
despojaban a personas de
in
la
Estado
tercera
de
edad de
Mexico
sus
that they were
viviendas?
taking
Incluso un
these
caso también de redes
elderly people
sociales
out of
de
their
don Arturo,
homes, and
que
some
le despojaron
donations
su
of
vivienda,
Mr.
lo
Don
golpearon a él,
Arturo
golpearon a su hijo.
was taken
Él
out of his home. They hit him,
desafortunadamente
they hit
falleció
his
el
son.
año pasado.
He
Aquí
unfortunately
se
died
lo
last year.
comenté.
I commented this to you, and last year, about mid-year, about July, I got a message from this notary person, Arturo, and with a partner, with a journalist here, that was asking me if I can have breakfast with him. So I told him no, because that we needed to speak to the complainants, to the plaintiffs, and he kept asking me with another partner that he wants to speak with me. So, Mr. President, what's going on is none of the families in governments, you gave the instruction that this needed to be revised and that the notary members were talking about an ethical code of these notary people and that needed to be exposed here as well. And Cordero Senate left. Now is Adan Augusto, and we have not had the opportunity to get the family taken care of. And there's more. They've taken these elderly people out of their homes. There's more people like that. So what answers can we give their kids and their families of Mr. Arturo that died due to the beatings that he got? There was a patch of air in his lungs. That's why he died. So what can we do about this notary people? Raul, family member of ex-governors, and he is just one proof of these notary, of the lawyers. Remember that we've spoken about this, to revise and review. I'm not sure what you can tell us about that. Well, I want you to tell them that Secretary Governor will receive them, Don Augusto, and you can tell them that I'm not sure if he was notary as well, so they have to have a license for that. So his dad as well. So he also died, and his dad died, and he was one of the people that helped us when we started. Do you know that the electoral laws back then, notary people can go and give their signature whenever there's a fraud committed? You can go to a notary and they have to do that. But when we started in Tabasco, there was no voluntaries there. And Payambesi, Don Augusto's dad, that's why we appreciate him and have a lot of respect for him. And it's good that we had that back then when we started fighting for democracy, when it was harder. When I was a candidate to governor of the Frente Democrático Nacional, there was this electoral tribune that from Tabasco that reconvened to establish that the representatives of the ones that were going to watch the voting had to live in the same electoral section that
se iba a instalar la casilla.
was the locations were going to be installed, and to accredit
Su residencia
their residency,
tenían que presentar
they had to present
una carta de los gobiernos
a letter of the municipal governments
acreditando de que ahí vivían.
accrediting that they lived there. You know how many letters
Entregaron
they turned in?
ninguna.
None.
Por lo mismo,
Because of the same thing.
no nos registraron
We were not
a
registered.
los representantes.
The representatives were not allowed. And those locations
Como quisieran.
were managed as they wanted. So I think this was in 88.
Pinochet aceptó
And Pinochet
un
accepted
plebiscito para que
pre-visitation
el pueblo chileno decidiera
so that the Chilean people would decide if he would continue
renunciaba
or renounce
a la presidencia.
to the presidency.
Sí fue en el 88.
I think it was in the 88,
Y en
yes.
Chile, con Pinochet,
And in Chile, with Pinochet,
permitieron,
he was allowed.
estaban porque se fuera Pinochet
They were allowed, the ones that wanted Pinochet out,
en las casillas.
that he would have representatives in the locations. And here,
Supuestamente
supposedly,
había democracia.
there was democracy.
No nos permitían.
We weren't allowed to have representatives in the voting locations.
Y otras cosas, ¿no? Hasta
And many other things up to now,
la fecha
that
de las autoridades electorales.
the
Que
electoral
se
authorities,
convalidado
they've always been with the fraud, electoral fraud.
Por eso hay que
That is why
insistir un
we
poco
need
lo
to
que
insist a
dijo
little
la
bit
consejera.
with what the counselor said, independently of the electoral authority.
La democracia la hace el pueblo.
Democracy is made by the people.
El pueblo elige.
People are the ones that choose.
Como lo mencionó
If it was like the
este
way
consejero,
this counselor mentioned, ignorant,
de que
in an ignorant way,
los mexicanos
that Mexican people
no estamos hechos,
were not made
No tienen en el ADN.
no tienen en el ADN.
in the, we don't have in our DNA the democracy needed.
Y el que dice esto
And the person that says this
maestría o doctorado.
has to have a doctorate or PhD or something.
Es como la pregunta
It's like
que
the
hizo Krillman, el periodista estadounidense,
question that Friedman made
allá por
to Porfirio Diaz
1906,
somewhere around 1906.
que si los mexicanos
He was asked about
para la
if
democracia,
Mexicans were ready for democracy.
y Porfirio que no era
And Porfirio, who was not
funcionario, era Porfirio el gran maestro, ¿no?, de la simulación.
Porfirio, then, since he was not a parliament member, he was a teacher.
Dijo sí,
He said yes.
ya está el pueblo preparado para la democracia.
People are ready for democracy, he said.
Y eso
And
alimentó
that
el movimiento democrático.
helped the democratic movement. But the truth
Es que
is
al poco tiempo su
not
periódico predilecto,
long after,
El Imparcial,
the
entre
impartial
comillas, empezó a decir que no,
people started saying no,
que el pueblo no estaba preparado
that the people were not ready for that,
para la democracia,
for democracy,
que el gran demócrata
that the great Democrat
era Porfirio Díaz,
was Porfirio
que
Diaz,
el pueblo de México
and that the people of Mexico
demandaba era
demanded
que
to
se
continue
eligiera
to re-elect himself,
Porfirio Díaz.
Porfirio Diaz.
Entonces, un poco
So that
este,
is just a little bit
para ir valorando
to be validating
todo esto, ¿no? Que
all of
está
this
sucediendo.
that is happening.
Claro que el pueblo está preparado
Of course, people are ready
para la democracia.
for democracy.
La democracia que tenemos
The democracy that we have now,
perfecta,
imperfect,
se ha conseguido
has been acquired
por el pueblo
due to the people,
en contra
against
de las autoridades electorales.
electoral authorities.
Es el pueblo el que ha hecho valer.
It's the people that have made this democracy
Y así va a
work.
seguir siendo
And it's going to be like that
hasta que
up until
se tengan organismos electorales,
electoral organisms like women, men,
honestos,
honest,
verdaderos
truthful,
demócratas,
truthful Democrats,
no farsantes,
not fakes,
antidemocráticos,
anti-democratic,
subordinados a grupos
subordinate
de intereses
to groups
empleados
of created interests, employees of these
Es que una cosa
monarchs,
es la democracia, es
because it's one thing to be
el
democratic
gobierno del pueblo,
with the people,
el mandato del pueblo,
the requests, the orders of the people,
es el gobierno
but the
de la
bigotry
minoría.
is the governing of the minority.
Esa es la diferencia.
That's the difference.
Las definiciones aristotélicas.
Definition, Aristotelic definitions.
Sí,
So
tenemos que cuidar
we have
todas
to
las autoridades,
take care
en
of
este caso los notarios, actúen
the fact that authorities,
con
in this
libertad,
case, that they
de
can
manera democrática,
perform with liberty and democratic ways.
Adán va a recibir a la familia
And Adam will receive the family so that you can tell them. And at the end, Mr. President, our brothers, migrant brothers, can use the IMSS, but they have doubts if they can also be taken care of with Infonavit or credits to purchase their homes, as well as if they can make money with the IMSS, will be allowed to have credits to open up a small business or purchase goods. I'm not sure there could be a good information about this. You know, you get viewed by a lot of people in the U.S., and if they have any doubts, among others,
explicó sobre esto.
we've been explaining there's a plan.
Vamos a que
We're going to
PSOE, los
be
martes,
speaking about this on Tuesday
que
when So is here,
la información
that we can
cómo inscribirse a
review the information as to how to get into the IMSS or the Social Security medical assistance, what rights that they know
en cuanto
they
a
can
ayuda
get
médica, lo que
when it comes to medical attention,
cuáles son los
pensions,
beneficios
what their benefits are,
y qué tienen que
and what they have to
hacer
do.
los migrantes.
Migrants,
Es el trámite,
like the,
bien, todo esto. Ya tengo
they need to be able
entendido
to tell migrants. They need to know. I know there's a plan now with that purpose, but we're going to be asking him to explain this.
Vamos aquí, después tú y luego tú.
Can't hear the question, sorry.
Señor presidente, buen día. Carlos Guzmán de 4 Media Telecomunicaciones.
Carlos Guzman from Veracruz.
Cuentas, pues lo que dejó las plenarias en el legislativo
So what was in legislative proposals, one is what has to do with the scores of Mexico, FAA, and IATA. Yesterday it was known that by the first time there's going to be a international flight from the International Mexico Airport to Houston, and this was spoken in the press over there, and that this could be in March when Mexico can have the number one category to come back. A few days ago, I was there with Jorge Nuno. It was mentioned that next week there's going to be another agent, FAA, here in Mexico to give us all the information. One about IFA, the international airport, if it's with Delta Airlines, because I think Delta has the most in that number one category. I think we're getting all the documentation done so that we can come back to category 1 in the case of the airport. That's what we were speaking about. That yes, it is really important that there's documentation about this and laws, but there's a lot of simulation with this, meaning if you think there's category 1 when the airport of the Mexico City airport and others were operated by cartels and narcos. So those are the norms now, and we need to respect them. So we're doing all the paperwork according to what I'm told, that there's a lot of advances, and we consider that soon we can go back to score number 1. Then I don't consider there's a problem with that. So it's working out really well, this airport, starting from that is being operated by the Marines here. And the other airport, Felipe Angeles, has been operated by the Air Force. In this case, as well, Secretary of Defense. If you noticed, there are very few complaints now. Now the thievery has gone down. There was a lot of prolonging and lateness. All of that, there was a lot of long lines before, but the service is getting better, and it's going to keep like that. And about Aeromexico, it's a decision that they've made, and surely, since they have this union with Delta, they can do it. They're in partnership with Delta and some funds in there of. So how many of these people are doing that? Well, what is being expected is that we've incremented the flights in Felipe Angeles Airport. It has been defined how many flights, passenger flights, in the Mexico City Airport, because there was a lot of operations going on. It was saturated. So it's been this has been applied, in all the airlines and voluntarily are translating to Felipe Angeles Airport. The other decision that we've made is all the cargo transports are heading to and starting from Felipe Angeles. And as I was telling you, in certain occasion, it was going to be made by agreements, and that agreement has been made with all these companies that are related to cargo. There's a chamber, association of air transportation. I got a letter from them and assuring that they will be backing us up on that. But they're asking for a little bit of time, so we've given them not a lot of time, but we gave them. Was it 6 months? No, it's going to be like 4 months. 156 days, yes. 56 days. Like, for example, DHL decided that before that they were going to use Felipe Angeles for their flight. They came to see me, and even before we took that decision, they were already working on it. They had offered come here and tell me that all cargo that they handle, they would operate from Felipe Angeles. So I'm going to be at ends of February, third week of February, that the first flight will be arriving, and the directors of this company will be there, and I'm going to be there with them, as well as a recognition, and so that they can get some confidence of from the country, Secretary of Defense, and the government of the Republic. So they're really good businessmen. I'm not ever going to forget that they helped us out with the vaccination. It was really important for us so that we can arrive and that we can get the vaccines here in time. And without exaggerating, I think it was 4 times that I reunited with the directors of this company. To all of them. There's going to be a decree that is going to have an application done in 4 months, that we're speaking about maybe May, June, that there's enough time. These things are being prepared, all the offices of customs, offices, warehouses, first class installations, because it's a first class airport. Yes, and there's a good vibe there that we have with them. That's what we're waiting for. We're going to be step by step. And the second question I want to ask is, yesterday, through a partner about Mr. Cuauhtémoc Cárdenas, that was integrated in a new party, political party, and yesterday when we were speaking, Mr. Monreal, he would say that the engineer had permission from you guys. So anyway, the engineer sent a question and sent a letter stating that he was not part of this new political party, that he is now against you. Well, it was really happy. I was really happy about the letter that he sent, and I didn't know, but he had already informed the group. But what happened is that they kept handling it. So when I'm asked, well, I answered the way you guys know. But I'm really happy that Cuauhtémoc Cárdenas had cleared that up. I think he cleared that.
No, pero usted, en cuanto al calificativo de
No, but you, I'm asking you that he was against you now. Well, either way, I mean, I didn't process that, and in that group of these moderates that really they're conservatives. Because I spoke yesterday with what Choro Campos said, that these moderates, they're nothing more than conservatives. They're just more woken up, more a little bit smarter, more fake conservatives. You can see all these intellectuals and these famous journalism people that would disguise themselves as independents, and they were actually more conservative than anything else. So I'm really happy, because I didn't read the document, but it was a criticism that, for example, it was exaggerated with no fundamentals, because they're just not there, about the supposed militarism that is in Mexico. So just imagine, General Cárdenas was, Engineer Cárdenas was president of Mexico, and he didn't militarize the country. He helped the fields. He helped the workers in the fields. He got back all the goods that Cárdenas had given to the other countries, and twice Secretary of Defense, General Cárdenas. What are they talking about? Militarism it's politics. What are they talking about? Moral authority, about people coming in, and all of these, if all of them were part of the corruption, or at least accomplices, or tolerated the corruption that was handled in the last few years. The sacking, the biggest sacking committed in the history of Mexico. All of these people, all of those personalities. What can Narrow say? He was a teacher, a principal, and then he was sent as a delegate for the pre-party, so that he can commit fraud. A matraquero, and he was the one that adopted the phrases called ninis, those of them that work and don't study. And he continues in the UNAM, in the University of Mexico, leaving on whoever he wants as leader. What alternative can that be?
Narro y otros,
Narro and others,
la mayoría de ellos,
the majority of them.
ya basta
That's enough
de simulación.
of simulating.
Y celebro mucho que
And I'm really with the fact that
y como lo expresa
Engineer Cardenas has separated from them. And like he says, there's got to be a debate, and there's going to be a debate.
pero que no quieran
But I don't want them to
engañar
lie to people,
al pueblo diciendo hay una dictadura, hay una tiranía,
stating that there's a tyranny, that there's a dictatorial system here in Mexico,
no hay democracia,
that there's no democracy.
se quiere, ¿cómo es que
How is it that
le atribuyen a Adán que dijo?
they attribute Adan,
Destazar la democracia.
that they want to
Teniendo buena su relación con el ingeniero.
tear
Sigue siendo
democracy?
con el ingeniero.
So you still have good relations with the engineer, Cuauhtémoc. Yes, he's an esteemed colleague of me, and I respect him because he's the beginner of the democratic movement. We arrived to the presidency to push a transformation, the fourth transformation, with the backing
De millones.
of millions of Mexicans.
Esto no es
This is not
asunto de un solo hombre.
about one person.
Somos
It's
millones.
millions of us. And
Fue un proceso
it was a process
que se fue dando
that was
durante
been giving during the time
fue decantando. Muchos
it was
quedaron ahí,
spreading. A lot of people were left behind, of course, because
mujeres, hombres.
they're women and men of little faith. I remember
El 2006,
2006, for example.
pues muchos
A lot of them, a lot of people were
se volvieron a animar.
disenchanted, but then they got
Pero en el 12
happy again. And come 2012, a lot of people
dijeron
said
no se va a poder,
it's not going to be possible.
nunca se va a poder.
Never is going to be possible.
Yo escribí
I even wrote
por ese desánimo, por esa desolación
for that desolation, that
que había, un libro
disappointment that there was. There was a book, Don't Say Bye to Hope. And I think on that book, hopefully that we can see it, I stated
un fragmento de un poema
there's a
que dedica
poem fragment that
el maestro Pellicer
Mr. Petty said
a Bolívar,
to Bolivar,
donde cuenta
where he narrates
hay así momentos de
that there's moments
tristeza,
of a lot of sadness, and he's sick.
y van a verlo,
So they go to see him,
lo visita un amigo y le pregunta ¿y qué va a hacer ahora?
and he's asked, so what are you going to do now?
En el lenguaje coloquial
In the
y dicen que
street language, per se, in slang,
en el cájaro
and he answers in that
exclama, ¿no?
hut that he was in, exclamates,
Triunfar.
that liberator, we're going to triumph.
En esos momentos
Just on these moments,
algunos
some
pues se desencantaron,
some of them were depressed,
siguieron
but some continued, because that's how this is,
para enseñanza del joven.
so that we can teach the young
Hay que caminar
comers.
hacia
We need to
adelante
walk
y
forward,
caer, y hay que
and somebody can fall, but we need to stand up and keep going, but you fall again, and then you need to get up again, not to stop walking towards the ideals that we're looking for.
esa perseverancia
That perseverance.
es lo de Juárez.
That's what is there.
Ocupan los invasores todo el país.
Just think about all the invaders taking over the country, and then all these offerings. Even Maximilian wrote to them and said, let's agree. Maximilian said, let's share
El gobierno
the governments.
dice Juárez, no, no voy a aceptar a un extranjero. No
And they said, no, I'm not going to accept a foreign
traiciones.
person to take over the country. And then
Lo mismo
traitors of
que le insistían.
the own government in Mexico, that the same ones that were insisting, let's negotiate with them. This cause is lost.
Esta empresa no tiene
This
futuro.
company has no future. They're wrong.
Y a Paso del Norte.
And then
Pues ahora Ciudad Juárez. A
what's
resistir.
Ciudad Juárez now? And they went there to resist.
Eran
And there was
30,000 soldados.
30,000 French people
El ejército más poderoso
from the biggest army,
en ese
the
tiempo.
strongest in that time in the world.
Y el pueblo de México,
And the people in Mexico triumphed
con la perseverancia,
with perseverance,
la firmeza de
the
principios
firmness of
y de los liberales
Juárez principles
que eran
and the ideals
excepcionales.
of Juárez that were exceptional, of women and men then. So this is what I'm talking about. This is what I wrote.
Días de
In
desolación,
these days of desolation,
desaliento y depresión
of
por el fraude,
fraud and depression of
es que esto
this,
lo vivimos
we lived this.
cuando el fraude del 2006
When the 2006 fraud
la gente
of
lloraba,
the presidential elections, people cried.
sufrieron mucho,
They suffered a lot.
la gente grande.
Elderly people.
Muchos ciudadanos se
A lot of
preguntan
citizens asked
si vale la pena seguir insistiendo en
if
cambiar
it's
las
worth
cosas o de
insisting to change things,
hacerse a un
or
lado,
plainly step
plano, y
aside
dejar
and
que la vida
let
pública transcurra
that
sin
public
ellos.
life continues without them, without us,
Los que hemos venido
that we've been
propugnando por una
repugning
transformación
for
profunda
a
en México.
change, a deep change in Mexico.
Otros con razón cuestionan
Others
si
with
la vía
rights
electoral
questioned if the electoral way is the change, the way of the change, and without betting
sugieren
for violence,
deberíamos
suggested
explorar
that
otras
we should
formas de
explore other forms of fights
todo esto
more
se
efficient. So all of
después
this
del 12.
was planted after the 2012 elections.
Entiendo el coraje y el
I understand the
desencanto
courage
y el malestar
and the disenchantment of the bad states that are
de este
production
nuevo fraude
of this
y
new
la
fraud
arbitrariedad
system and the
con la que
arbitrary
fue cometido
that it was committed with
el del 2012,
in 2012 elections,
así como el mensaje
as well
prepotente
as the message of the
de que
overpowering
nos
message
quitarán hasta el
that
derecho.
we were going to be taken from the right to hope.
Por eso decidí
That is why I
dedicar un tiempo
decided
para escribir este
to
libro,
take some time to write this book,
compartir mis reflexiones
share my reflections
sobre el qué hacer,
about what to do,
como se decía antes,
as it used to be said, or what's next,
como se dice ahora.
as it's said now.
Adelanto mi
And I
optimismo,
forward my optimism,
valiéndome de Carlos Pellicer,
backing myself up with Carlos
en su
Pellicer,
poema
that
Balada
in his
Trágica
poem Balada
del
Trágica del
dedicado a
Corazón,
Bolívar,
dedicated to
cuenta
Bolívar,
en medio
counts that in the middle, in between of bad
y enfermo,
situations and
un
sickness,
amigo que le amaba
a friend that was loved,
a Bolívar,
that he was
le
loved by
preguntó
Bolivar,
a
was
don
asked,
Simón,
Mr. Simon, Don Simon,
y ahora,
and
¿qué
now,
va usted a hacer?
what are you going to do?
Triunfar.
Triumph, he said, triumph,
El libertador respondió
the liberator
con
said,
loca fe.
with lots of faith.
Eso es
That
luchar
fighting.
En todo este proceso,
So in all this process, there was a lot of people that
ya hay quienes
contributed. There was a lot of people that have passed away already. And truthfully, I've said it in different occasions, there was people that
no
thought
nos iban a dejar.
they were not going to leave us.
Por eso,
And
cuando
that's
se triunfa,
why when you triumph,
fue algo,
it was something really amazing.
decían algunos,
They used to say,
pellízcame
pinch me
para ver si es cierto.
to see if it's real or
Y
not.
ahora están
And
mucho
now
más
there's more.
satisfechos,
They're very much more happy
porque siempre
because they're satisfied now, because
queda la duda.
there's always that doubt.
¿Qué va a suceder?
What's going to happen?
¿Te van a cumplir los compromisos?
Are there going to be
Y yo creo
situations
que
where what they say it's going to be done gets done? And I think people now feel that way. They feel like what we set out to do is being done.
pues,
And that's
alegría,
why there's happiness.
y la gente está contenta.
And people are a lot happier now.
Otros no,
Others
pero,
aren't.
pues tampoco son
But
nuestros
there's
enemigos,
really,
son nuestros
they're
adversarios.
really not enemies. There are adversaries.
Y no vamos a imponer nada.
And we're not going to impose anything by force. Everything through reason
Convencer,
and the right.
persuadir.
Convince, persuade.
Y es de sabios
And it's
cambiar de opinión.
about people that know to change, to be a change, to their, that there's a change of opinion. There's a lot of people, for
Hasta
example,
empresarios
even businessmen,
que participaron
entrepreneurs
en
that
los fraudes,
participated on the
que
fraud
aportaron dinero,
because they gave money.
participaron cuando
They
la
participated
guerra
when
sucia.
that dirty war of 2006
Me
election.
han ofrecido disculpa
I've gotten
y
requests
lo
to
valoro
forgive
mucho,
them, and they've offered,
lo valoro. Y vamos a seguir además. Es por
and I
bien del
appreciate that,
país.
that they asked for forgiveness. And it's for our own country's good, for
Ya no se podía
Mexico's good. We couldn't
seguir
keep
como iban las cosas.
the way things were going.
Pues esto de García Luna, pues
And all this about Garcia Luna, and
es una vergüenza,
it's a shame,
independientemente de cualquier
independently of anything else.
cosa. Hay un
There's a
testigo
witness.
que le empiezan a cuestionar y dice
They
que-
started asking him things, and he says,
le dice el abogado de García Luna, usted mató
the Garcia Luna's lawyer defense says, you killed,
o mandó a asesinar
or you sent to kill
personas.
1,000 people, and you said, and he answers, no,
A 100.
only 100.
¿Qué es eso?
What is that?
¿En qué estábamos?
Where were we then?
Entonces, vale
So
la pena
it's really worth
seguir adelante, luchando
to keep going,
por
fighting,
purificar la vida pública.
to purify public life. So we've seen that Governor Gustavo Garcia has been showing up here. We've commented a few subjects for Veracruz, but let's center in the Jalapa situation. Municipal president in La Villa that had gotten, and he's working to make a few roads, but nevertheless, he is independent about that train that has been offered. Cuitláhuac has the information sufficient that this project, nevertheless, we're not going to have enough time for this project. Wondering if Mr. Cuitláhuac, the governor there, has been spoken about this. And even if it's the last day of his government, do you think you can inaugurate that train in Jalapa? Well, I would love to do that, but as other works I don't think anything should start now
se vaya
that we're not going to
a terminar.
finish by the end of our
Y
administration.
van a venir
And we're going to get
otros
other
presidentes,
presidents,
lógicamente,
obviously,
obviamente, y van a darle continuidad
logically, and they're going to give continuity
al
to
proceso de transformación.
this
Estoy seguro de eso.
transformation processes.
Entonces, ya
I'm sure of that. So that, I think,
se nos está agotando
time is running out, unfortunately.
y tenemos mucha obra
And there's a lot of
que
works
necesitamos terminar
that we need to finish.
y estamos cuidando, ¿no?
And we're taking care of
Por
that.
ejemplo, en el caso de Veracruz,
For example, in the Veracruz case,
tenemos
we have
todo el istmo,
all the area,
todo lo que es el rescate
all the
de,
rescuing
la
of
zona petrolera.
the petroleum zones of south of Veracruz.
Ahí
There,
se está invirtiendo
there's
en el puerto,
there's money been put in.
todo lo que es el ferrocarril desde Medias Aguas
From Medias Aguas
hasta
to
los límites con Tabasco.
limits of Tabasco to Tabasco. We're talking about that train that we're building there, and
Vamos a impulsar los parques industriales.
we're gonna push on the industrial parks of that area.
Sí,
10 of them,
parques industriales
industrial parks
en el istmo.
in that
Creo que son
zone.
5 de
I think there's
Veracruz, 5 de
5
Oaxaca.
in Veracruz and 5 in Oaxaca.
Y
And
vamos a continuar con
we're gonna continue
obras
with
de
works,
apoyo
backup works
a Veracruz, carreteras.
to Veracruz, such as roads.
Ya se está mejorando el sistema
The system is getting better.
de salud.
The medical system is getting better. The social works
En fin, vamos
and
a
more.
seguir
We're gonna keep backing them up. So Veracruz.
Pero
So
sí,
yes,
no queremos iniciar
we
nada
don't want to start anything that is not gonna get done.
que no se vaya a terminar. Y estamos apoyando
And we're backing up
pues, la instalación de empresas,
the business installations, such as
en el caso del puerto,
in the port case, where
empleos.
it helps us out with
Ahí una cervecera,
businesses that we're getting
le ayudó,
brewery constructed, beer
en fin,
company.
se está desarrollando Veracruz y se va a
Veracruz is
desarrollar.
growing, and it's going to keep on doing that.
Cuitláhuac.
And Cuitláhuac is a very good
Y lo
governor.
más importante,
And what's more important,
lo más importante de
what's
todo,
really important, is
de Cuitláhuac,
about him.
aparte de que
Aside from
es una gente sencilla,
he's a simple man and working man, the most important thing is that he's really honest.
eso es
That is really for Veracruz is
que ha pasado
what's been happening
por una situación
due to a
bochornosa
sad
en
situation
cuanto a malos
when it comes to
gobernadores,
bad governing,
muy corruptos,
very corrupt,
pero muy corruptos.
very corrupt,
Que es como guardadas las proporciones, ¿no? Aunque Cuitláhuac
it's about proportions. I'm talking about Cuitláhuac being young as a governor, but Luis Cortines, for example,
fue un presidente honesto,
he was a really honest president from Veracruz.
es importantísimo.
It's really important.
Entonces yo estoy muy satisfecho.
So I'm really
Y
satisfied with
se ha
that, and
avanzado. Por ejemplo,
we've gotten
hay una
progress.
disminución
For example, there's a
de delitos,
considerable
ya no hay los secuestros
downfall of
que se padecían.
delinquency. There's no more kidnappings as they were before.
Han bajado los homicidios.
Homicides have gone down.
No quiere decir que ya
It doesn't mean that it's resolved, of course, but
sí, mucho avance.
a lot of advancements.
Tenemos inversiones.
If we have
Puerta para Poza Rica. Porque
funds coming in for Poza Rica because it was abandoned. Poza Rica was abandoned. Now
ahí estamos
we want to
visitar una planta
solicit this plant of fertilizer
en Poza Rica.
plant in Poza Rica.
Y se decidió también
And it was decided as well
se lleve gas de Tuxpan a Coatzacoalcos, el gas marino. Se hizo un acuerdo.
in Coatzacoalco, marine gas, for example, it was a
Miles de millones
inversion of thousands
de dólares.
of millions of dollars.
Va a haber gas.
The
marítimo
gas is
de una empresa canadiense
going to be coming in from a Canadian, TransCanada, called.
de Tuxpan.
Everything has been signed from Tuxpan to Coatzacoalco,
a la península.
and then to Dos Bocas, and up to the peninsula of Yucatan.
Sí estamos en eso.
So we're working on that, and
Me da un poco de
I get
tristeza,
a little bit of sadness
no
feeling
poder
not being able to
ver lo del tren.
see about that train because people from Jalapa, the capital of Jalapa,
Es de primera.
is first class.
Gente muy buena, trabajadora.
Of good people, working people, and
Siempre
always
nos ha apoyado.
we've gotten back up from them. Sorry, can't hear the question there, but
Sí, pero
yes.
yo no entiendo bien
I don't really understand how
esa
that
resolución.
resolution
Yo creo
is
que no
working
la,
out.
limita.
I don't think it limits itself.
Sí, porque sí. Yo recuerdo que
Yes, because I remember that I think Article 11 of the Constitution of the state
establece
states that
que para ser gobernador
to
de
be
Veracruz
a governor of Veracruz,
se necesita ser
you need to be
originario o hijo
from or son of,
de veracruzano.
originally from a person from Veracruz.
Por ejemplo, yo puedo
For example, I can,
porque mi papá era de Veracruz,
because my dad was from
mi madre
Veracruz.
tabasqueña.
My mother was from
De acuerdo a
Tabasco,
la Constitución.
according to the Constitution. But
Se puede también
you can as well
por la residencia.
do through residency.
Sí. Y a Rocío
Yes, so Rocio was federal legislator,
senadora por Veracruz, diputada
senator,
federal
federal
por el distrito de Coatzacoalcos. que
for
ganó de
the
mayoría,
Coatzacoalco district, who won by
ganó de
majority
mayoría el Senado,
the Senate.
pero
But
a ver si no tienen el dato
hopefully that you can get the
de cuántos
information
votos
there
obtuvo.
that how many votes she got there.
Es senadora
She's a senator now of Veracruz
con licencia.
with license,
Nos está
and this
ayudando
because she's helping
en la Secretaría de
in the
Energía
energy
y en la construcción.
department and construction and rehabilitation of the refineries.
Pero
But
ganó de mayoría, no es
she won as
plurinominal.
majority. It's not nominal,
Entonces,
really.
¿eh?
So then,
¿Y el segundo?
so the second one,
O sea, obtuvo 1.800.000 votos. Y el segundo,
she got 1,800,000 votes. And then the second one,
Es como para aplaudir, ¿verdad? A
It's
Jesús
it's to be able to applaud
y a todo
that
el equipo, ¿verdad?
to Jesus and all
Cómo
the
los ponemos
team,
en apuros.
how we put them in these situations.
1.800.000.
1,800,000.
¿Cómo se llama el con el que compitió?
What was the name of that one person that competed
Trajo
against her?
a
That brought
los de box
those people from the box
de España.
boxing
Sí.
from Spain.
Pues sí, más de 500.000
More than
votos.
500,000
O sea, los
votes.
cepilló.
They were groomed, basically,
Estos son los que celebran, ¿no?
for Nicolas. So these are the people that celebrate, thinking that
No va a poder participar. Yo creo que sí.
they're not going to be able to
Digo,
participate.
en el caso de que gane la encuesta.
I mean, in the case that the
Porque
calling
tiene
is
la
done,
residencia.
because she has the residency there.
Ah, ya no se puede. No. Sí, sí, no, pues eso
Can't
sí.
really hear, but
Eso sí. O sea, si uno tiene hijos veracruzanos, tiene uno derecho.
so you have kids from Veracruz. Somebody can become a president there.
Pero no a los hijos de veracruzanos. El hijo tiene derecho. Sí, que es mi caso.
So the son can do that,
Pero yo ya
be a president there,
en
governor.
septiembre,
But now in
una vez que
September,
entregue la banda, ya me jubilo. Ahí sí ya no nos vamos a...
and sorry to say that once I give up the
Pues siempre
presidency,
les voy a recordar con afecto.
I end my
Ya me voy,
time.
ya el tiempo.
I'm not going to be able to be there, but
Este,
all right, I'm on my way out.
No me, como dicen en mi pueblo, no me puedo traspasar.
As they say on my town, I can't overdo this.
Con Beatriz y luego
We're going to be with Beatriz.
dice, te tardas mucho.
They say I take forever when I answer.
¿Eh?
Can't
Sí, sí.
hear the question.
Bien, muy bien, muy bien.
Really good.
No hablamos de eso. No. Sí, viene la gerente, sí, mundial de CEO de Banamex.
Banamex
Creo que es hoy.
director will be arriving, I think, today.
¿Viene la señora? A ver, pregúntale a Laura, por favor. Hoy.
Today will be arriving
Después del desayuno.
after breakfast, I suppose. Yes, so it was really that ambassador was here from the United States.
Sí, porque vamos a
In Puerto Peñasco, yes, because we're going to have a meeting. Who's confirmed from
no hay
America Latina?
todavía,
Latin
agenda.
America? No,
Vamos
we don't have
hacer un recorrido por Sonora.
works on that, but we're going to be going through Sonora.
Bueno, este fin de semana
This
vamos
weekend, for
a-
example, we're going to
a Victoria, vamos
go
a
to
San Luis,
Victoria, San Luis,
Guanajuato
Guanajuato,
y Querétaro,
and Querétaro
a una reunión con los servidores de la nación
to a reunion
y
with
con los que
the
están
nation's
trabajando en los
servers,
programas de bienestar, en especial lo de la instalación,
especially with the installation of the
a eso.
bank installation of the
En el caso de
Bienestar,
Querétaro, pues,
and in the
a conmemorar
Querétaro
la
case,
Constitución
commemorate the
del
Constitution.
17, de 1917. Mañana. Mañana son dos ya.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Muchas gracias a todas y a todos ustedes que siempre nos acompañan. Gracias de veras de corazón, se los digo. Les agradezco mucho su tiempo y todo lo que nos están apoyando aquí en el chat. Gracias, de veras. Eve menciona, dice, no miro dónde hacer un super chat para Ángel. Ede, te agradezco mucho, corazón. Debería, no está ahorita en este canal, pero está también en el otro canal que tenemos. Puedes también hacer alguna donación o aporte que puedas y gustes en el otro canal. Déjame, te pongo aquí el link para nuestras redes. Para nuestras redes, que te pongo aquí a ver si lo puedes copiar. Y ahí te puedes meter en el primer canal, AZTECRON Entertainment. Ahí puedes hacer cualquier aportación. Ahí está la cuenta de banco. Si nos puedes apoyar, estaría súper, porque sí necesitamos mucho apoyo. Gracias, Ede, te agradezco mucho. Gracias, Tato, a todas y a todos ustedes que siempre están con nosotros. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning again with another transmission of Lopez Obrador, Mexico's president, with his morning conference. We're going to be here with you during all weekdays, and please be expecting more transmissions on the other channels. You have the link right here, Linktree, so that you can join us there as well. Vamos a tener más transmisiones acerca de lo de García Luna en el canal de AZTECRON Entertainment. Por favor, métanse ahí para poder unirse con nosotros. Todo lo más reciente de García Luna y el juicio ahí. Y también vamos a tener mucho de Harry y Meghan y también un especial de Johnny Depp. Por favor, únanse a esos canales. Cuídense mucho, yo los dejo por el resto del día. Hasta pronto, en unos minutos entramos en transmisión en los otros canales. Cuídense, que Dios los bendiga. Thank you very much, God bless you, and we'll see you tomorrow morning. Hasta mañana.